Welcome back to the vlog. The lighting is a little terrible today because it's so overcast outside, but hopefully, I don't know, it is what it is. Oh, I have so much to talk about. Let's pass more books. Okay, so beginning of the week, it's Tuesday, and I finished 2 books yesterday, right? 2 books? Maybe I finished one on Sunday and one on Monday. I finished 2 books recently. So the first one that I finished was A Monstrous Regiment of Women, and it was so intense. It was just so fun to see Mary come back from this really, really awful turn of events. Like, I guess, I don't know, I don't want to get too much into spoilers, but she goes through something really terrible in this book, and it takes her, and she's very mentally capable of getting past this, but like emotionally it's also very taxing on her, and physically too. And so it's just, it's a lot for her to get through. It's so heartbreaking in so many ways. I was not expecting it to get that heavy. And wow, my heart hurt a little bit, and thinking about how I might react if I went through that, I don't think I could be as strong as Mary was. It was crazy and incredible. And to see her come back from that and just be ready to like hop in a disguise and do some espionage, like it was great. It was fun. Okay, so I finished this, and the next book that I finished was Fireborne on my phone, listening to it, and that was really good too. I feel like overall, all the different characters and their relationship dynamics are just so spot on. Like I mentioned before, there's like some love triangles in that book that are just like, they're not that typical love triangle that you see. They're just these real relationships that are complicated and messy, and it just feels like real people making real decisions about love, and it's not always working out. Anyway, so I really appreciate all the relationship dynamics in this book. They are so good. A couple of things that I didn't love. One is that I feel like all the action scenes are just very flat, and they're just, you're not really immersed in the action. I feel like it feels like the author didn't really know what to do, like how to describe all the things that are happening, especially at the dragon fights. Really, those are like the main action scenes, and every time it was just like, and they got their opening and gave the kill shot, and then that's the end. And it always feels like, and this just happened. It's kind of what it all boils down to, and it doesn't feel like I was like flying the dragon with them, if that makes sense. And that's not everybody's preference, but I just wanted a little bit more like in the moment with the dragons. I really liked that you got more of a sense throughout the book of what it meant to like be bonded with your dragon and to like link emotionally with them and spill over, but the action just didn't work for me in those scenes, and that was a little bit disappointing. The other thing that I didn't really love is that kind of all around the climax, like the last quarter of the book, I just feel like Annie and Lee were making just like the dumbest decisions, just going along with what their leader was saying, even though they knew that they were terrible, terrible things. And I just feel like no one, like there were moments when people kind of stood up for things, but at the same time, like no, it just felt like not them to be going along with it. I didn't really believe, just of everything that I'd seen from them in the past of the books, it didn't feel very like themselves to just be going along with what was happening. So that just didn't feel very believable to me, and I wish there had somehow been just more motivation apparent in them going along with that. But I don't know, I'm probably also just being a little bit too meta in reading and just going like, why would you do that? I was very frustrated, which is probably what the author intended. I'm definitely interested in book 2. I don't know, I'm like hesitant about whether it'll be good or not, but also excited. I don't know, I'm not sure what to expect from book 2. I'm hoping it'll overall either be just as good or improve. Also, real quick, I started The Bone Shard Emperor last night, and I'm already having so much fun with it. I think I just read 2 chapters. Yeah, I just read 2 chapters. One was in Lynn's perspective, one was in Jovis's perspective, and already I'm really just loving the dynamic between them, because they're now kind of thrown into this situation together, and it's just really fun to see how their characters interact. Jovis is feeling a little different to me than he did in book one. There's definitely still a lot of the roots of his character from book one, but for some reason he just feels different. Like, I guess a little bit bolder in a way than I thought he was. I don't know. That's almost thrown me off because I'm like, whoa, where did this come from? But maybe it's just been a while since book one and I'm just like forgetting too much of his character arc. I don't know. But I'm really liking how Lynn and Jovis are playing off together. I'm really just excited about like all the secrets that Lynn has to uncover. And of course Mephi is just as fun as always. And I'm hoping that Thrana becomes just as fun as Mephi. I'm very excited to keep reading this. I didn't want to put it down last night, but I did because I need sleep. Hoping for a lot more reading time today. I also have the second Fireborne book on my phone already, Flamefall. Flamefall is what it's called. Haven't technically started it, but the audiobook is downloaded on my phone. And when I get a chance, I will eventually be starting The Letter of Mary, which is the third in the Mary Russell series. But I might put this off for a little bit because I have a book club book. I'm excited to read that, but that won't come until at least next week. We'll see when I get around to this. If book club comes up first, then it comes up first. Lots of good books going on. It's been lots of fun. I'm gonna get back to life and reading and kids. It's gonna be good. Okay, back. It's the end of the week again, Friday, and I feel like I have so much to say. So much to say. Just the other day I was telling Calvin that like I feel too invested in all the books that I'm reading, and it's almost like how do I choose which one to focus on? I don't know. I try to read them all kind of equally. Okay, here's what my reading days are kind of looking like recently. Whenever I have like a minute to just like pull out my phone, I have the ebook of Alloy of Law. I just grabbed that on the beach. So I just pull that up to read it when I have a minute. Starting my reread of Mistborn Era 2 for when the fourth book comes out this fall. I'm so excited. I have it on pre-order, and Mistborn has been so fun. The Alloy of Law specifically. It took me a second to kind of get back into it, but like now I'm just like along for the ride and it's so fun. I think book one is the book that I remember the best of the three books, and so right now it's just really fun remembering where all these characters that I love started, like seeing Wax and Wayne and their banter is so fun. Seeing I don't know how I say this. I say Marasi usually, or Marasi? I don't know how to say her name. But just seeing her start out a little bit more timid and unsure of herself, and then also seeing Steris just be Steris in the beginning. And I'm so excited to watch Steris progress and to watch everyone's perception of Steris progress. Oh, it's so fun. I'm realizing that Waxilium is a little bit overpowered, but I'm okay with it because I am. I don't know. It's been a fun series, and it's just been a fun reread so far. I think, let me double check how far in it I am. I am just starting chapter 10. I'm 45% of the way through it already. Like, I did not start it that long ago. I'm also working on the audiobook for Flamefall. I don't think I started that last time I checked in, but when I started it, like almost instantly, I was like, oh no, oh no, oh no. Like, okay, I'm 11% of the way through Flamefall. And you instantly start with this character who's like on the bad guy's side, like the old dragon lords, the survivors who are trying to like win their kingdom back. And it's this like servant who was in love with Julia, kind of like her lover, and like just okay. And also you find out that he is a dragon rider, but they're not treating him as a dragon lord, they're treating him as a servant because he's not of like dragon blood. And you're just like, there's so much going on that's like just so wrong that these people are doing. And then this guy, you just like feel for him, and like I already love this character even though I don't agree with all his decisions, and I just want him and his dragon to be treated better, like so badly. Anyway, can you tell how invested I am already in book 2? Just these characters. Okay, and then we jump back to like Annie and Lee pretty quick, and just like right away they're like the conflict that comes up between them. Normally I would chalk up that kind of conflict to being like, oh, the author just wanted to find some drama to have in book 2 and they needed like a new like character relationship arc to work through. But like, no, this is like legitimately hard stuff that they're going through and disagreeing about, and this pain they're trying to work through and process, and trauma, and like there's so much, and it's just like, it hurts me so much, but it makes sense, and it's so believable and realistic, and it hurts so much that I just want them to be happy. And they're not. Rosaria Munda is so good at writing characters that just make you care. I don't know, part of me is like worried that if I'm feeling this much pain and stress in like the first 10%, like how much more am I gonna get when there's supposed to be like a climax? We really haven't had a lot of like action scenes with dragons yet, so I'm not really sure if that's going to be better in this book or not yet, but I'm hoping. So I am excited to get more into Flamefall. It's good so far. It's really good. And last but not least, the Bone Shard Emperor that I have been just kind of chugging away at slowly. I read like about 1 or 2 chapters a night, and it's a big book, so you can see it's still like such a long ways to go. But I'm so excited for the ride that I'm going to be on. There's just, how do I want to summarize my experience so far? I feel like there's somehow all this like action happening, even though there's also a lot of like Lynn just trying to like figure out what the heck is going on in her kingdom, her empire, and Jovis is also trying to figure out like what is going on and what should he do about everything. But yeah, it doesn't feel like they're just sitting around and thinking about things. There's just still so much action propelling things forward, so that's been great. And I'm really excited. Chapter 6, we're getting back to Nisong, and I'm so excited to see what is going on there. I can't wait. We are about to go out of town for the weekend, so that's why I'm actually filming real quick right now, because I'm not going to be able to film as easily while we're gone. So I'm going to bring the Bone Shard Emperor with me, because hopefully if our boys are good in the car, I can get a lot of reading done and get through more than just 1 or 2 chapters at a time. So much is going on in these books, and I'm so invested and having so much fun. And I just don't want anybody to die. Well, maybe I don't want the characters I like to die. Oh, it's good. It's good. Okay, I'm gonna get back to all the things I have to do to get ready to go this weekend, and hopefully I'll find some good time to read. Okay, it's, I feel like it's almost been a whole week since I filmed my last snippet. In a way, I feel like I've made a lot of progress in the books I'm reading, and in a way, I feel like I've made no progress. I don't know, I haven't finished a book in a little bit, so I feel like... Squeaky chair, sorry. Okay, let me just tell you what I've been doing. We'll start with Wax and Wane. So I'm actually 76% of the way through Wax and Wane, the Alloy of Law, which is actually a little bit farther than I thought. I just kept like being around the 50 to 60% mark for a while, like every time I looked. And I was like, I thought it was farther than that. Anyway, so that should actually be a fairly fast finish pretty soon. Because like anyway, I do remember the climax fairly well, and I know we're right there. We're kind of at that last confrontation. There's just kind of a lot of fights that still need to happen, so I'm excited to see it all come together. I'm really excited to move on to like the next book where we see a little more from Steris, because she's like my favorite character. But it's been really fun to just remember what Marasi, I think I call her Marasi. I think I like that pronunciation better. I don't know why I can never decide on how to say her name, but I can't. Anyway, it's been really fun remembering just how good she is at what she does. Like, she's so smart and resourceful, but she's also yet so like timid in some ways, shy in some ways. Not shy, but like I feel like she's like me in the way that like I blush super easily, even when I'm not necessarily embarrassed. And this is actually something that I find embarrassing about myself, is that like I'll blush even though I'm not actually embarrassed, and I like know that it's silly that I'm blushing, and then that will make me blush even harder because I know I shouldn't be blushing. Does anybody else do that? I do that, I feel like, all the time, where like my face just gets so red and I'm just like, I know there's no reason to be like ashamed or embarrassed, and yet here I am looking like I'm embarrassed, and then that makes me more embarrassed. I don't know, I feel like Marcy and I both do that. Okay, next is Flamefall, the audiobook I've been listening to. So this book makes my heart hurt like every time I go back to it, but I'm really enjoying. The action scenes are better in this book. They're not the best action scenes I've ever read, but they're a lot better so far. So that's awesome. Basically, I am heartbroken over what the stupid Dragonborn and New Pythos are doing to their servants, because it's like the worst sort of coercion. And it also breaks my heart that like the servants don't have a way to communicate with like Annie and her friends, and that because if they could all just get on the same page, like it would be so easy. They could just work together and it would all be fine. But they just don't. They never quite are able to find that moment where they can just talk and get on the same page. And it's so sad. So that's that. So on the Bone Shard Emperor, I've made progress. Last time I think I was like maybe that far, and I've read at least twice, like 3 times that. I'm on page 157, like the middle of chapter 16 out of like 57 chapters. So yeah, I still have a long ways to go in this book. I don't know, sometimes I just don't have time to read physical books, which is why I also have a book on my phone and an audio book on my phone that is just like really easy to pull out when I have a minute. And this I just have to actually like sit down and dedicate time to reading, and sometimes in the evening I have time for that and sometimes I don't. I just can't wait for Jovis to find out like the real big secret of who Lynn is, because I just feel like that's going to be, I feel like it's going to happen after they've maybe become a lot closer in their relationship, and then it's going to be just devastating for both of them. And and like I don't actually want that. I want them to I want them to be happy. I want them to, you know, find what they're looking for in getting the Empire back together and being friends, or maybe more than friends, and figuring out their strange powers and like stopping whatever dangers come from the Alanga. Like I would love for them to get everything that they want, but it's not going to happen because things. Anyway, I'm really excited. I think it's gonna get really, really intense. It's gonna be awesome. And as if that weren't enough, I have actually started another book. I'm actually probably going to put the Bone Shard Emperor slightly on hold right now because my book club is reading House of Salt and Sorrows, and so I need to finish this by the end of the month. So I'm going to kind of crack down on reading this, hopefully. It's not super long, it's much shorter than the Bone Shard Emperor, but I'm really, really excited for this. So I've read chapter 1. So basically this is a retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses, and all that I really knew going into this was that these sisters kind of keep disappearing or dying. There seems to be some sort of curse, and it takes place in like a manor by the sea is where this like princess, I don't think she's technically a princess in this, but so far the writing is so good. It's immersive, it's a little spooky, which like I don't normally jive that well with spooky books, but I think this is like the right level of spooky for me. Let me just read you the first paragraph. I feel like this is such an excellent example of what I try to tell writers to do with their hooks, to make them like just have some sort of twist that just catches you and intrigues you. So listen to this. Candlelight reflected off the silver anchor etched onto my sister's necklace. It was an ugly piece of jewelry, and something Eulalie would never have picked out for herself. She loved simple strands of gold, extravagant collars of diamonds. Not that. Papa must have selected it for her. I fumbled at my own necklace of black pearls, wanting to offer her something more stylish, but the battalion of pallbearers shut the coffin lid before I could undo the clasp. Okay, so do you see what just happened there? She's all just talking about this necklace that her sister was wearing, and she's like, oh man, like she would never want to wear something like that. I should give her my necklace. And you're just thinking that like maybe they're getting ready for like a ball, or just they're getting ready for some nice event and she just wants her sister to have a nicer necklace. But no, her sister's dead. And just like that twist, you're not expecting for it to get so like morbid so fast. And so like I love those kind of twists where you think you kind of know where the line is going, and then it just kind of subverts your expectation and says, no, this is what's really happening. As soon as I read that, I was hooked, and the rest of the first chapter was just as amazing. So I'm really excited to keep going with this. I think it's going to be an excellent read. I've heard already from a few other ladies in my book club that they have been loving it, so I'm really excited, and I hope I get a lot of time to read this. Okay, it's been like a weekend plus some, and I finished Mistborn on Sunday, I think. Sunday or Monday. It was great fun as always. It was fun seeing some of like the plot kind of tie together, knowing some of the things that are going to come later in the books, and just realizing what some of the villains really have up their sleeves and things. So it's just fun sometimes to reread a book and to know what's coming and see all the pieces coming together and kind of getting all that foreshadowing really coming through. I have book 2 on hold, Shadows of Self, and it should be coming in a couple weeks. Okay, what I really want to talk about today is House of Salt and Sorrows. Oh my word. Okay, so last time I had just read 1 chapter and now I'm done. I read this so fast and it was so good and so creepy, and okay, let's just talk about it. Okay, so like I said before, this is a retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses. The ocean is like a very present part of the setting, and so this girl, she's like the 5th or 6th daughter of a duke, and her sisters just keep dying off. Her 4 oldest sisters have already died as the book opens, and everyone is starting to think that they're cursed, and then some really creepy things start to happen, and Annalay, the main character, she feels like she's starting to be haunted by her dead sisters, and it's creepy, and it's so, but it's like, I don't know. Normally I really don't like to be scared and have like horror, but somehow this level of horror just like worked for me, and it was so like intriguing the way it was creepy, mostly because it felt like, well, Annalay was basically feeling like she was going crazy because she kept having like a vision of something that just felt so real and vivid and terrifying, and then she would kind of come back to reality and be like, so that didn't happen? But I thought it did. Was I dreaming? And like, it gets so, it turns out that there's so many like layers that it's so hard to tell it's real. I feel like I have to go back and reread this to try to figure out what was real all along and what was fake all along, but then I also have to like give myself a while, because I can't go back into all of that right away, because it was intense. Anyway, eventually Annalay and her sisters start going to these balls and dancing through their shoes, of course, and basically Annalay is on a mission to try to figure out who's killing her sisters, because she's pretty sure that the 4th sister who died is not going to be the last, and she doesn't want anyone else to die. So, really good. There's also some fun romance to it, which I liked, but I also felt like she became infatuated with him just a little bit too quickly. So I have like a little bit of beef about that, but I mean, I still really liked him and liked them together. I'm still trying to process the ending and figure out what I actually think of it. Maybe if I have any more thoughts, I'll just write them up in an Instagram review. But also, okay, the writing was so beautiful. Like, it was so immersive. The setting just like felt so real and gorgeous, even though it was often also terrifying. Like I said, still processing the ending and trying to decide how I feel about it, but I'm really glad I read this, and I'm super excited to talk to my book club about it. So that's basically, I've read a little bit more of Flamefall as well. I'm around the 53% mark, I think. Not much has really changed there. Characters are still excellent, and the action, like I said, is a little bit better than in book 1, and I'm just slowly chugging away at that one. And now I can also finally get back to the Monstrous Emperor, so we're gonna do that next. See ya! Okay, this is going to be my last little snippet of this vlog, so I'm gonna try to wrap up my last kind of reading bits. It's not quite the end of the month, but we'll get most everything here. So, I finished Flamefall, and I really liked it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed parts of it more than book 1. Like the action scenes I mentioned before, definitely better than book 1. I think a lot of the character arcs were just as good as book 1. Power and Annie especially, their relationship dynamic, I could see where it was going, like the climax of their relationship arc, like I knew it was coming, and I loved it the whole ride. I really want a parallel universe where Power and Annie actually fall in love, but I'm really glad that in this universe they didn't, because I don't think they're really right for each other. But I had so much fun just seeing their relationship. It was just so interesting. And like I've said before, Rosaria Munda is just so good at creating real people who have real relationships and real conflict with each other, and Power and Annie just had a really interesting dynamic that was just a unique relationship that I feel like I've never seen before in another book. So, loved that. And then the last thing I want to say is that the very end of the book, I wasn't expecting the end to just like happen so quickly. Like I was expecting more to come and to like for more things to be resolved, and the way it ended with the twist and seeing that the bad guys had a plan up their sleeves all along, it felt so right, because I mean all along the way the bad guys are doing these really terrible things, and you feel like the good guys are making all this progress and like making their secret plans and spying and figuring out all the things, and then it turns out like they didn't actually know what was going on and didn't act in time. And seeing how things fell apart at the end, it was a great cliffhanger for book 3, which just came out, and I have it on hold. It was so well done. Just kind of an inevitable twist that still surprised me, because I was impressed at how well I was led along to think that the good guy's plan was just going to work and everything was going to turn out, and then it didn't, but I'm okay with it because I'm excited to see where it goes. And there's just so much in store, especially certain characters who their story isn't finished yet, and I'm pretty excited. There are still things that I don't think are perfect, but I'm pretty willing to overlook most of them. Like, it's still pretty great. I've also been making some pretty good progress in the Monstrous Emperor. I'm like halfway through, potentially more than halfway, barely. A while ago, like the second chapter that we got from Nisong's perspective, which is probably in the first third or fourth of the book, it got really intense really fast. And previously I was pretty sympathetic to Nisong and her friends because they went through some hard things and they didn't ask for what they're going through, and I want them to figure out like what happened to them and why they are the way they are and why they got put on their island and all these things. But now they are taking things way too far, and I hate Nisong now. Like, that chapter made me hate her because she was brutal, and I get that she was hurt by this other group of people, but I don't see justification in what she's doing. So I really hope that her friends start to like really push back against what she's doing. I'm seeing a little bit of that, but like I need them to really push back more. just a couple of things that are bugging me with this book. Renami always bugs me. I just don't like her character. She just annoys me, like, all the time. I love Falou. She's really fun. I really like her personality. Renami just bugs me. So I never like Renami's perspective, or when we hang out with Renami. So that just bugs me all the time. It's fine. But I feel like there have also been multiple times for multiple characters where things just happen so conveniently. Like there was a point with Falou and Renami where I can't remember what it was. I think it had to do with like the little orphan girl they were trying to take care of, but something just happened so conveniently, and it was just like, I don't know, it felt so like a plot convenience. And there was another moment with Jovis that happened recently where he found a little hideaway of Lynn's, and he just happened to not be able to sleep and happened to notice this thing out of place and happened to decide to like go check it out, and then found the book that she's been hiding, and of course decided to flip through it and to find the exact thing that Lynn is keeping from him. And it just felt like too many, oh, I'm just gonna do this, oh, I'm just gonna do this, oh wait, oops, discovered a secret. It just felt very convenient, and I think it could have been done well, and I've been waiting for this moment when he's gonna figure out that there's a really big secret that Lynn is keeping from him that has to do with who she is, and I've been waiting for it and the devastation that's going to come with it, and I think it could have been such an excruciatingly clever but painful moment, but it wasn't, because it was all just plot conveniences that led him to that discovery, and there was also no like sitting in that discovery. Another thing is that I feel like there are so many moral issues with the bone shard magic system that a lot of the characters are just ignoring. There are a lot that they're also addressing and acknowledging as horrible things, but there are other things that just haven't been discussed yet and brought up. Like, I feel like Lynn should be having a lot more of an identity crisis, and she's not. And I feel like Nisong and her friends should also be a lot more concerned with like the longevity of their plans, and they're not. I mean, I get that they are also really concerned with immediate survival, but there's still also been no mention of like, so do we have any idea of what we're gonna do in the future? There hasn't been a ton of acknowledgement for that kind of stuff, and so it's bothering me a little bit. And I know it now seems like I'm not enjoying this book, but I am really enjoying this book. There are just a lot of things that are bugging me, but I also feel like there's just so much of the premise and the intrigue and the setup is just so interesting, and the mysteries, and then a lot of the characters are also really fun to interact with. Oh, and I'm also so excited to learn more about the monks. So excited that that's coming up in this book. So I think there's some really cool things that are still going to happen. I'm still really excited to finish it. I just also had to vent about some things that are bugging me. Okay, last but not least, I just barely started Shadows of Self, book 2 of the second era of Mistborn. I'm still like in the prologue, so like I just barely started it, but I'm excited for the ride, and I'll report back to you on that later. Well, thanks for coming along for my August vlog. It's been a fun ride. I'll probably have more to catch up on with my next vlog, but it's fine. I'm excited to pass more books, and I hope you are too. See ya.